This is the good old GTX 660, which costs just over $200 at release. And these are the games that this mid-range graphics card ran at a stable 60 frames per second. Now, let's look at its conditional descendant in the same class in 2025, the RTX 5060. You can buy it now for only $350, which is still not very much, but this new graphics card released only 6 months ago can barely run modern games. If you want to see starters after every shot, you either have to turn on the damn DLSS or buy something more expensive. But that's not all. The old GTX 660 didn't just run games of its generation, it also ran games that came out several years after its release. Yes, some games are no longer on epic or high graphics, but without all kinds of DLSS and frame generation stuff. Now, let's be honest, will the damn RTX 5060 be able to perform just as well in 2027, at least in native 1080p? No. So we see that over the past 10 years, power, video memory, and price have increased, but why is there no real progress that the average gamer can feel? Why has the life cycle of new graphics cards become so short? How exactly did Nvidia graphics cards stop delivering pure performance? Why is each new generation more expensive but not progressing in any way? And most importantly, how did Nvidia become the most expensive company in the world, selling us such shit? Almost a year has passed since the release of Nvidia's 50 series graphics card, and now we can see how pathetic it is. During the presentation, they made very controversial promises. They claimed that the RTX 5070 will be as powerful as the RTX 4090. However, in terms of actual performance, the 5070 couldn't even beat the 4070 Ti. Everything they said back then was just a marketing strategy. The RTX 50 series can only stand out thanks to the multi-frame generation feature. This technology generates artificial frames using AI. Thanks to this, your FPS can increase by 2 to 3 times, although this leads to a deterioration in image quality and an increase in input lag. And these image artifacts are by no means insignificant. Competitive games already do not support such technologies due to distortion and additional lag. So is MFG technology really that important? But if we simply ignore this technology, we don't see any significant updates in this generation. With the exception of the RTX 5090, no model differs from the RTX 40 series enough to be considered a significant step forward. Incidentally, the same could be said during the transition from the RTX 30 series to the RTX 40 series, because despite lower power consumption, cards below the RTX 4070 did not offer a significant performance gain. But the RTX 50 series is in an even worse position. All cards except the RTX 5090, which cost more than $2,000, are completely pointless. For example, the RTX 5070 Ti, or more accurately, the RTX 4070 Ti Super Plus minus. Now let's talk about prices. If you look at the price chart, you can see that all GPUs except the RTX 5090 have become cheaper. That looks good, right? But in reality, not everything is so good. Nvidia has shifted its manufacturing focus to AI GPUs. This has led to GPUs for regular users becoming less of a priority. Considering how popular Nvidia is, it was not that difficult to predict that stocks would run out very quickly. Manufacturers like MSI and Asus usually sell their cards for $20 to $100 more than the recommended price, which is normal. But due to a significant shortage in this series, graphics cards are selling for almost double the price in some countries. The RTX 5090 in particular can reach absurd prices such as $4,000. In addition, for such a high price tag, we get not only a new 50 in the name of the video card, but also a bunch of hardware problems, such of which are critical. The first and foremost important problem is that some GPUs have missing ROP blocks. This is without a doubt a manufacturing defect. The number of ROP blocks in the GPU core directly affects the performance you get. And here I see a very logical question from you. Hey Radical, why are you dumping a bunch of nerdy crap on us? Better show us a photo of a hot chick. Okay, no problem. And while you're looking at Shrek, I want you to know that this crap with ROP blocks can cause the performance of the RTX 5090 to drop to the level of the RTX 4090. And this problem depends solely on luck. There is no guarantee that it won't happen to you. A user who understands components may notice the difference and realize that something is wrong. But if they don't know how it all works, they may not even guess. Imagine that you saved up some money for an RTX 5080, but it performs worse than it should and you don't even understand why. So if you are using an RTX 50 series GPU, I recommend installing GPU-Z and checking the number of your ROP blocks. If there are fewer than there should be, you should definitely request a replacement card. But this is far from the only problem. The RTX 50 series has a very important and critical issue with PhysX support. PhysX is a technology that allows you to add more realistic physical effects to games. Previously, this feature was activated by an external module. Later, Nvidia acquired the company that developed this technology and integrated physics directly into the GPU. Therefore, for some time, there were special physics blocks on video cards. But since PhysX is rarely used in modern games, Nvidia has completely removed PhysX support from the RTX 50 series GPUs. But there is an important nuance here. Older games may still require PhysX. For example, if you like older games and use an RTX 50 series GPU, and the game you want to play has PhysX effects, you may not get it to work properly even on an RTX 5090. That's why we see so many dissatisfied users in the comments who think that older games somehow don't work well on new graphics cards. But let's be honest, these are all technical issues, and in such a large corporation, they can of course arise from time to time. The main thing is that we don't have any problems with the software, right? No. I would never have thought that we would even be talking about Nvidia's software problems. We are used to talking about this with AMD. However, for some reason, Nvidia decided to release crappy drivers in this generation. Gamers have been talking about problems such as performance drops and black screens for a long time, and now it has become the norm for Nvidia card users not to update their drivers on the day of release, but to wait for a hotfix. So we can really say that the new generation of graphics cards from Nvidia is indeed very bad. But the truth is that it would be wrong to say that gamers are now being sold trash for their money. It would be more accurate to say that we've been sold shit for a long time. And it started just when the GTX was replaced by the brand new RTX. The moment Nvidia transitioned from GTX to RTX was more than just a generational change. At that moment, the company ceased to be a manufacturer of gaming graphics cards and shifted its priorities. Before RTX, a graphics card was a straightforward product, a board that rendered frames. You bought power, and its life cycle depended on architecture, not a set of marketing technologies. Then, in 2018, Nvidia announced a revolution. Ray tracing, tensor cores, AI technologies, all of this was presented as the future of graphics. The problem is that in practice, it didn't give gamers anything. The first generation of RTX couldn't handle its own effects. The RTX 2016 Battlefield 5 with ray tracing enabled delivered a stable 20 frames per second, and with an additional 4 frames, it would have been cinematic, but they couldn't even do that. DLSS was the first shift towards compensation rather than performance. Instead of developing the native power of the GPU, Nvidia created a way to hide the chip's weakness with an algorithm. Over the years, frame generation has only increased developers' dependence on technology, and multi-frame generation has now cemented this as the new standard. And in fact, the main problem is not the technologies themselves, but the fact that Nvidia has made them the centerpiece of its lineup. Hardware is no longer the foundation. Its role now is simply to be a platform for a set of algorithms that are supposed to overcome the chip's limitations. It's clear that Nvidia is going through a difficult period, but Nvidia is not the only player in the market. And while the company is moving in the opposite direction, AMD and Intel have taken positions that Nvidia ignored. AMD initially stated that the RX 9000 series would not compete in the high-end segment, but the situation has changed. The RX 9070 and 9070 XT are a direct response to the 5070 and 5070 Ti. And this time, AMD is playing on what Nvidia has lost: a normal price performance ratio, stable native performance, VRAM reserves, and adequate drivers. After problems with the RX 7000 series, they brought the software to a stable state, and now they have entered the market at a time when Nvidia is busy with other things. Intel has also stopped looking like an experiment. The B570 and especially the B580 become a real option for gamers who don't need expensive features. 12 gigabytes of RAM, a price tag of $250 to $350, performance close to the 4060 Ti, low temperatures, and adequate energy efficiency. Driver issues do remain, but Intel is moving faster than expected. And in the segment where Nvidia has failed the most, it is the B580 that looks like a balanced choice. All of this leads to the last and most important point. The RTX 50 series does not look like this by accident. Nvidia has completely reoriented itself towards the AI market. The power of a GPU for training models is determined by the number of CUDA cores, tensor cores, memory bandwidth, and VRAM capacity. And it is cards like the H100, A100, and their successors that are bringing Nvidia real money. One such accelerator cost as much as several top-of-the-line gaming cards combined. The artificial intelligence industry is consuming these GPUs at an unprecedented rate. As a result, Nvidia has shifted its engineers, technical processes, and production lines to AI models. Gaming cards have been relegated to the background. This has led to shortages, a lack of attention to optimization, increased dependence on technology, raw drivers, compatibility issues, and a shortened life cycle. It would be wrong to think that Nvidia has just suddenly become bad. It's just that the gaming segment is no longer strategic for them. Who knows, maybe soon this company with a green logo. No, not this crap. This company with a green logo, which for decades was synonymous with the word gaming, will leave the gaming market altogether and direct its billions to such crap.